So to get therapy or to not get therapy is the question.
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad?
Okay, so the first sign that you may need to seek therapy is if you are a chronic people pleaser. So my definition of that is just somebody that like literally does not take their own happiness or well-being into account. Like everything you do is to please others. You can see this at work, like where you are working hours and doing projects that you don't want to do, you're not getting paid to do, but you're just doing it to please your boss. You can see this in situations with maybe a spouse where you're participating in activities that you don't want to participate in and you don't know how to say no for fear of, letting them down or whatever. I think that there's a fine line, and I think that it's normal to want to please the people around you. Obviously, you don't want to be seen as somebody who doesn't go with the flow and all that stuff, but it does become a problem when you pretty much say F your own feelings and you just want to make sure that whoever is good. So I think that with that chronic people pleasing, a lot of times there's self-worth issues. Like you see the value and the worth in other people, but you don't see it in yourself. There are ways to, still make the people around you happy, but not forget about yourself. Like you have to take care of yourself. Like I'm big on self-care and just kind of knowing when to pull back and when to go forward. So there are times in my life where I will do the most for people and it doesn't make me unhappy. It actually makes me happy to do it and I'm in a position to do it. And so I don't mind, going the extra mile. But there are other times in life where I'm like, you know what, that's a little too much and I'm going to have to let you down for my mental health. Like you're going to have to find another way to get it done or whatever. And I wasn't always like this. I did have my situations where I felt like I was doing the most people pleasing, but to kind of bring it back, if you find yourself in a position where you are always trying to make others happy and you never take yourself into account, you may need to speak to a professional to find out why that is, because I guarantee there are some deep-rooted issues, whether it be with childhood, past relationships, whatever. But there's some deep-rooted issues and you need to find out why you put everyone else before yourself. Okay, so the number 2, situation where you will want to probably consider therapy is you are constantly attracted to toxic traits in others. So this can be used for different types of relationships. I would say friendships and romantic relationships. You find yourself constantly in situations where you are befriending women that want to sleep with your man. You constantly find yourself in situations with a man that constantly wants to sleep with your friends or that is constantly verbally abusive or whatever the case may be. You consistently find yourself in situations that are not ideal, that are abusive and toxic. And I think that there's a reason for that. And in some cases, you might benefit from talking to a professional. Just like in my first example, I do think that there are a lot of self-worth issues there. Like, why do you feel like you deserve that type of treatment from anyone? Why is it so hard for you to break away from people like that? Do you think that you deserve this kind of treatment? Like things like that you want to ask yourself. I have been friends with people and I've even been in just different situations where I've either heard a lot of complaints. I mean, I've definitely been there myself, but I do feel like as I've gotten older, I've been able to better scope out those little toxic traits. So I've been able to kind of avoid certain things, but I've had friends that are constantly in situations with other women where they're being done wrong. Or again, like in relationships where they're being done wrong. And it's certain toxic traits. And the common denominator between all this is them. So if you are not able to kind of pinpoint like why those reasons are, it might be helpful for you to talk to a professional. So you can get like kind of coping mechanisms and you can just kind of figure out what's going on so you can do better moving forward. Okay, so the third situation in which you may want to seek therapy, if this is like a common thing, is you look around and you don't have any long-term relationships. So I'm kind of more gearing this towards friends because obviously with romantic relationships, if it's not a good fit, it's just not a good fit. But, well, I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Friendships, let's talk about friendships first. So I personally, in my opinion, I think that it is important to have at least like 1 or 2 people around you that you go back with, like someone that has grown with you, someone that like knows your history, has seen you as a kid and now an adult. Even if you don't hang out with the person all the time, I do think that it's important to have relationships like that. I think those relationships are very like helpful because it just like everybody's gonna have situations with people, but I think that if you are able to be friends with someone and like cultivate a relationship that lasts 10, 15, 20 years, it just shows that you're willing to do the work and you're willing to put in the time to cultivate relationships. Now, I do understand that this is one of those where like it's not one size fits all. Like you may have just kind of come across a bad batch of people, whether that be romantic or friendships. You may have just simply outgrown certain situations, and maybe you just haven't gotten to a point where you are able to cultivate those relationships. But I think more or less what I'm trying to get at is if you have like fallen out with people, like legitimately fallen out with people over like stupid stuff, or you just simply don't feel like you have the capacity to have a long-term relationship, you may want to explore that and just kind of see what's going on, see if there's any other like reason why that could be. Like, are you scared of commitment? Have you had situations where you've been abandoned in the past? Like things like that. I think that it's good to explore. Now, when it comes to relationships, I think the reason why I said it's tricky with like relationships, romantic relationships, is because it kind of depends on what you want out of life. Like, not everybody wants to get married, right? Obviously the idea of getting married is to marry one person. Some people have multiple marriages, and I'm not judging, do you? But the idea, the general idea is to get married to one person and be with them forever. You guys go through ups and downs. You guys are with each other through, highs and lows and all that stuff. And if you want to have a long-term relationship and you're not able to keep one, that's something that I think needs to be explored too. So I know that was long-winded and I kind of feel like I was all over the place with that, but if you want to have long-term relationships and you notice that you are just not able to keep friends or relationships long-term, that's a good reason to speak to a therapist to see if there's a deeper issue going on and see, is it you pushing people away, or is it you just not picking the right types of folks? Okay, so another reason why it may be helpful to talk to a therapist is that you are easily triggered. Now, I left this general because triggers can be anything. Like, you can be triggered by anything. But I did read somewhere, I wanted to make sure I put that out there because this is not my original thought, but it resonated with me. But your triggers are usually the things that you need to work on, the things that are not healed. Now, it's not to say that, you went through a traumatic experience and it's never going to affect you. But I think it's important to be able to know how to deal with that traumatic experience and move forward so it doesn't affect you every time it comes up, if that makes sense. Like, it's not other people's job to walk on eggshells around you because something triggers you. It's your job to get help and to heal from it. I do think a lot of times, now let me back up. If someone's being disrespectful or trying to use like a traumatic experience or something that they know bothers you to hurt your feelings or to disrespect you, that's different. I'm not talking about that. That's a situation with that person. But if certain topics come up and you find yourself getting antsy, you find yourself getting angry, or it takes you back to a bad mental space, then it might be helpful to talk to a therapist to find out why that is and to like get professional advice on how to work through that so it's not a trigger for the rest of your life. Like, you just don't want to live life going through situations where you are easily, I don't want to keep using the word trigger, but like where you're easily bothered. Like, you want to be able to have mechanisms to help you move forward. So if someone is talking about a certain situation, you can possibly help them moving forward and again, help yourself. So yeah, if you're easily triggered by things, then you might want to consider seeking therapy. Okay, so the last reason why you might want to consider therapy is you're just not happy and you can't quite figure out why. I think that a lot of us have just gone through like different experiences, and especially I think in the Black community, like we go through a lot of traumatic stuff all the time, and we kind of just learn ways to deal with things and just live with it as opposed to really getting help. And I'm not just trying to single out the Black community, I'm just talking about that community because it's the community that I'm a part of. I know that any culture, any race can have issues. So I just want to put that out there. I don't want to make it seem like we're the only ones that have problems, but I just know that there are a lot of like generational issues that we don't deal with. And, you know, sometimes it can be a lot. And so if you find yourself just simply not happy, you can't quite pinpoint it, you know, you have everything that you technically need, but you're still just not quite feeling good, I think it's helpful to go and speak to someone. Because a lot of times, like, we have this idea that if we make a certain amount of money, or if we live in a certain place, or if we look a certain way or whatever, we think that that's going to make us happy, when you could just not be mentally healthy. You could have everything that you physically want, but not be mentally healthy. Therefore, you're not happy. So even if you can't quite pinpoint the reason why you need therapy, if you're feeling off mentally, be comfortable with finding someone that you're comfortable with to talk about it with, and, you know, just getting the help that you need. Like, don't let it fester. Like, you could be living your best life if you choose to. You just need to, you know, be mindful of when and if you need to speak to someone other than your general circle. Okay, guys, so that is all I have for today. I know that was a lot, but all in all, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, I do think that we are more open to, like, acknowledging that mental health matters too. We're more open to people seeking out therapy when they're not feeling mentally well, but there's still a slight stigma. So I did want to use my little platform to kind of just bring awareness and let you know that if you are not feeling okay, if, you know, talking to a friend or talking to your family members is not working, do not be afraid to go and seek professional help. I would say if you are considering it, or if you you know, are just kind of worried about costs and stuff like that, I would definitely check with like your primary care provider. A lot of times you're able to seek therapy services through your insurance, and a lot of times it will be covered, at least to a certain extent, and for certain situations. I know last time I spoke to a therapist was last year, and it was covered through my medical insurance. So check there. There are a lot of resources on social media. I'm sorry I didn't come prepared with any of that information on hand, but I do know that there are a lot of different platforms on social media that you can reach out to. I would say probably I would research the hashtag on Instagram, therapy. You know, they have like Black girls therapy and stuff like that. And there are a lot of different places where you can simply text message, you can video chat, especially with everything that's going on right now, and you not being able to see people in person. There's a lot of different convenient ways, and a lot of times cost effective ways to get the help that you need. So if you needed a sign, I hope this could be a sign for you, and I wish everyone the best mental health ever. So if you enjoyed this video, please go on ahead and give me a big fat thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have not already subscribed, go on ahead and click that subscribe button below, and be sure to turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. With that being said, you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.
You in the past, I'm in the